Yes.
It is 6 o'clock. We have adjourned from executive session. We do not have a report at this time. So we will, at 6 o'clock, we will close the workshop for the Kerrville City Council on February 13th. And at 6 o'clock, we will open the City Council regular meeting on February 13th, 2024. So glad to have all of you here tonight. Thank you. And we will start with the invocation and Pledge of Allegiance, led by Councilmember Brenda Hughes.
Heavenly Father, thank you for your presence as we gather here this evening. I ask that you bless everyone here and also those who cannot be with us tonight. May your hand guide us to recognize the importance of every decision we make and ask that our actions reflect what is pleasing to you and to our citizens. Thank you for the opportunities you give us to serve you and to serve our community. Grant us your wisdom, your protection, and the powerful presence of your love. We pray these things in your Son's precious name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we have some announcements for the community.
We do. I'm going to be brief on them because they've all been put up here before, but if we can get them up on the screen. Should be coming. There we go. I want to remind everybody that the activity guide has come out. I encourage everybody to check it out and read it if you want to know what's going on for the whole year in Parks and Recreation, library events. There's even some police events in there. It's a wealth of really good information about all the things that are going on, all the programs that we're offering at the city, and there's some out front if you want to grab them before you leave. I know we've seen this several times in a row, but this is actually the weekend coming up for the mother and son dance, and that's going to be this Friday, and then the daddy-daughter dance is Saturday. Both of those events are at the Happy State Bank. There's still a few tickets left, so if you know someone who wants to go, if you want to go, be sure and check that out. Get in touch with Parks and Rec. And then finally, we talked about this last time, but we do have a site set up. If you look at that www.kerrvilleeclipse.com in the lower left there, that site's being updated weekly with new information. I encourage everybody to check it out as we get closer because there's a lot of good stuff out there. We just want to make sure that everybody has the latest information as we move into the eclipse. We don't want anybody left in the dark. And that's it.
Okay, thank you, Stuart. Do we want to say something about the police, or not the police academy, but the city citizens academy?
Again, Stuart, do you want to speak on that, or I
Speak on
can?
that? I think,
On this one,
Sure, I'll be
I
happy.
think it'd be a good idea to mention that.
We are opening up applications for make sure everybody can hear me here, for the Citizens Academy. We opened that up last week. I think we already have 9 people that have already signed up. But it's a new program that's being offered. It will consist of 8 weekly sessions to be held here at City Hall and other city facilities, and we are encouraging people to check it out. What you'll be able to do through that is to learn more about each of the individual city departments, and I believe that will include field trips to the waterworks out there, all that, and it's a great way to learn about all the things that are going on. If you have any questions about how city works, it's kind of like the youth academy that we've had for quite some time, but for adults. So encourage everybody to check that out. If you want to apply. We're looking for people.
awesome.
It's
Thank
free
you.
and
Yep.
8 weeks.
8 weeks.
And great.
2-hour sessions.
Yes. Great way to
Everything.
learn more about the city.
Yep.
So we encourage you to sign up for that.
Mm-hmm.
We also welcomed our newest company to town, Mega Creek, a couple weeks ago, And we had a great ceremony and are just really delighted to have them as part of our community. Anything, oh, I also want, I don't know if, I don't think Stuart mentioned it, there's a deadline for vendors, for trucks, for the eclipse. Do we?
Yeah, again, I think most of that information is
Is
there on the Eclipse
online.
website, so I
Okay.
checked that out. It's got a lot of good info, so.
Okay, okay. All right, and then I believe also, we're still taking applications, I'm sorry, Stuart, I'm kind of putting you on the spot here.
Oh, that's okay.
Aren't we still taking applications for Parks and Rec, for the board?
For the board,
Uh-huh,
I believe we are
I think
until.
so.
Yes,
and then also, Zoning Board of Adjustments?
zoning board of adjustments.
For that one?
Right,
Yes.
yes.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, I believe we are, ready for visitors and citizens forum.
Presentations, ma'am.
Oh, presentations first. I always get those messed up. Okay, so the first one is Bikers Against Child Abuse. If you guys will join me up here. This is a great group, and delighted that you guys could join us tonight. And they cause more commotion out coming in. They have to take their vests off because of all the things that were on them. So they gave them a workout out there tonight. So we are so glad to have all of you with us. The City of Kerrville recognizes Bikers Against Child Abuse with the February 13, 2024 Kerrville Kindness Award. Bikers Against Child Abuse, otherwise called BACA, exists with the intent to create a safer environment for abused children. The Hill Country chapter of BACA, after being contacted by a referring local or state agency or individual, will meet with a child at a location the child feels comfortable and will present them a membership vest with a BACA patch sewn on the back. The child is also given the name and number of 2 security-vetted BACA members residing closest to them geographically who can be contacted at any time the child feels scared. The child may call upon these bikers to go to the child's house, neighborhood, or court meetings and provide the necessary reassurance to help them feel safe and protected. BACA members never go to the child's house alone and never without the knowledge and permission of the child's parents or guardians. BACA's mission is to help children and their families draw strength from each other, and they will remain in the child's life for as long as that presence is needed. The Kerrville Kindness Program offers a sincere thank you to BACA for their dedication to improving the lives of area children. And all of the council has signed this. So we're just delighted to have you. Now, I would like for you to share with us, if you would, they have 2 names, as most of you know. And one is, I guess you would call it a biker name, and then their real name. So they're going to give you both of those tonight. And then I'd like for you, if you would also tell the group how long you have been a part of BACA.
My name's Band-Aid. My real name is Kevin Martin. I live in, anybody know where High, Texas is?
Yes, sir.
I live in High, Texas. I've been doing BACA for almost 16 years.
I go by Igor. I was named by BACA child. I was very fortunate. My real name is William Lerp. I've been doing this for 10 years now.
Hi, I'm Kathy Lerp, his wife. I was also named by a BACA child. My name is Cupcake because I was so sweet. Now, if you ask my employees, they may not. But I've also been 10 years, we've been in the chapter the same amount of time.
My name is Shucks. My real name is Shelley Parker. I've been involved with BACA. Next month will be 16 years.
My name is Dave Parker. Road name is Top Hat. Been involved since the beginning, so right at 16 years.
My name is Ruth Ann Hazlett, and my BACA name is Pitty, and I've also been with BACA for 16 years.
I'm Wilbert Hazlett, road name is Skip, and been with BACA 16 years.
My name is Paul Rowe, and my road name is The X. It's my ex-wife.
Heavy on the duh.
We have come to an agreement, to put our past behind us and help children together.
Amen.
Oh, 10 years. I'm sorry.
Jingles, I've been doing it as long as he's been patched, so right at 9 to 10 years. My real name's Samuel Bell.
My name is Paul Penny. Call me Change. I got my name from my BACA child. I've been doing it for about 3 years now.
I'm UK. My real name is Joe Moylan. I've been with BACA on and off since 2016 and moved over to Kerrville beginning of this year and joined over here.
So you guys are the Kirk County chapter,
Hill Country.
Hill Country chapter. And then I believe there's one in Fredericksburg.
No,
We're
it's the
same
same.
one.
We live
Same
in
thing.
Fredericksburg.
Okay, all
We
right.
cover- We cover a large swath all the way down to Del Rio, up to Colleen Junction,
Our next closest is probably San Antonio.
San Antonio, yeah.
Allen Lakes.
We got quite a large area.
Yes, you do.
We got a lot.
Anything somebody would like to share with, about your group, anything else?
Yeah, watch out. The first weekend in March, we'll be a few hundred strong at our state meeting the first weekend in March.
At the end of the hills.
At the end of the hills.
You'll see us at Taco Casa and Dairy Queen, and they all know we're coming.
And when is that again?
First weekend in
weekend of
March.
In March.
First, second,
All
and
right.
third.
So we'll have you, then we'll have the eclipse.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, all right.
What a lot of people don't know is that when these kids go into the courtroom, sometimes it takes months, sometimes it takes years for these kids to get in. The lawyer for the perp, the defense attorney, he will subpoena the child's entire family sometime. So that child is in that courtroom alone, facing that perp. We've spent the months and years getting to know that child, and we sit in the galley just like y'all, and that child can look to us for strength.
One of the things that I see with a lot of doing them is what the child needs to know is we don't need to know what happened to them, we just need to know something. So we don't become what another person is asking them questions, we just really just become a friend. And they also get the biker names, so, and
They also
nobody in
get
our
road
group.
names.
Right,
Each
they get
child
road
gets
names.
to pick their own
No one
biker.
knows their own names.
Yeah,
We don't know the
we
child's
know the
names at
child's
all.
name.
Yeah.
Okay, that I did not realize.
Which makes it real hard when we go to court. We're here for duct tape.
We have a court liaison that knows the child's name.
Well, I met these guys on the Jam Radio, and we spent some time there, and then they gifted this to me at Christmas time, so, but they didn't give me a bicycle, a bicycle.
You just get the name, just like that.
So, all right, we'll let you guys hold this, and I think we've got some picture takers. Are they close enough? You need,
No,
we're good? Okay.
everybody get to a gap if you want to do that down there.
Double up, guys, double up.
Don't be scared.
All right, there we go.
Don't touch me. I gotta count slower than that, man, we're bikers.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you for what you do. Thank you for what you do. Simplify. So, thank you for what you do.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
We're doing breakfast tomorrow morning,
I think we do.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
We gotta know the mayor's name. We didn't get that.
Eminem.
Eminem.
Motorcycle mayor.
Thank you.
I see you have some flyers. Do you want to leave some out front? That'll be good. Okay.
I can only guess why you're UK.
Texas.
Thank you. Thank y'all.
I told them they didn't have to stay for the meeting. They're welcome to stay, but they're also.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Appreciate you, sir.
Great bunch of citizens.
Thank you.
All right. Oh, I need to stay down there because we have some recognitions, don't we?
When you come back.
Okay. All right, well, those who were part of the Charter Review Committee that are here, please come up. Just 3 of you.
Oh, Tim's here. Dr. Summerlin's here.
Dr. Summerlin?
I think they're
Paging Dr. Summerlin.
Paging Dr. Summerlin.
You already forget?
Have we met?
All right, this is a resolution of commendation, and I'll read all the names and then I'll give each of you your certificate. Greg Richards served as chair of this committee. Jason Galbraith, Danny Almond,
Thank you.
Brenda Craig. Oh. I know that. Not today. Not today. Yesterday, yes. Mike Siegerman, Tim Summerlin.
I'm not Tim Summerlin.
Thank you, look like you, right?
All right, and Sandra Yarborough, yes. So I will read this. I won't read all of your names. City of Kerrville Resolution of Commendation, whereas these members have served as a member of the Charter Review Commission, the date of service beginning September 29, 2023, and whereas they have served faithfully and dutifully on said board. Now therefore, be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Kerrville, Kerr County, Texas, that they be recognized for outstanding service as a member of the Charter Review Commission, and that on behalf of the citizens of Kerrville, as well as for ourselves individually, we wish to express our sincere appreciation for contributions to the city and the community. And this was passed and approved today and signed by all of the council members. So we do appreciate what you guys have done. Tell us, well, we know who you are. Is there anything you'd like to share from your work on the committee?
I thought it was very interesting. Even though I had worked with the charter for 35 years, I learned a lot about it that I didn't know, and how much the state is involved in regulating what we do.
Well, man, I think it was, I served on the previous Charter Review Committee, and it's a very interesting and a neat experience, and I can't really say enough about Mike Hayes and the city secretary and the city staff for providing us with all of the tools that we needed to go through this, and we went through this thing every sentence, every piece of it, one at a time. And with their guidance, I think we were really able to come up with some pretty good ideas about how to streamline the charter, make it easier to understand and read, and I think it's a good opportunity.
Danny?
Well, I'll just say that we had a lot of in-depth discussions. There are 2 or 3 things we recommended that were thought of. There are pluses and minuses to all of them. And I'm pleased that the council is going to put this forward to the citizens to let them decide what they want to do, because, you know, we tried real hard to come to a consensus, and we did on things, but we had good arguments, we had good discussions about all of this over several hours, and we hope that the citizens will take the time to review all of this, think about, and then make an informed decision.
ditto to what these guys say.
I would like to reiterate what Danny said. I think it's a real plus for the city council to realize that these are things that are being recommended, and it's not the Charter Review Committee's decision to make, it's not the city council's decision to make, it's the voters' decision to make, and I applaud you guys for moving forward and not striking any of these things and letting the citizens make that decision, because it's not city council's really.
That's exactly right. And that will be, those votes will, or that voting, those amendments will be on the May 7th ballot.
May.
And, May.
May 4th.
4th, okay. And it is really important to take the time to read them and be informed, because when you get into the voting booth, you may have questions. And so I appreciate all that you guys did. You did it in a short time. You worked hard and fast, and but you've come up with some, what I think are very, very good recommendations for us. So I appreciate it very much. Thank you. Do we need a picture? All right. All right. Shake the hand of a council member, please.
Thank you.
Do I have to?
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's do it. Capo, thanks
very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Joe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to meet you. Good to meet you tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you all again.
Sit down, you got one more. One more.
No, one more. That one's going to be done by the chief, I believe. So, recognition of team members.
Mayor, Council, thank you for the opportunity to recognize some of our team members from this past year, our employees of the year, and to have that honor in a team as the high caliber as what we have at the police department is very impressive to be selected from that group. At the end of the year, every year about November, we start taking nominations internally from their peers of a Supervisor of the Year, an Officer of the Year, and a Civilian Employee of the Year. Through those nominations, we go through and review those and make selections for those, and we award that at our Christmas party each year. So I'm glad to get to share these folks publicly and recognize them publicly. If I could have, as I call your name, if I could have you come up here. Mary Hernandez was our Civilian Employee of the Year, and Mary works in our evidence department. She's one of our evidence clerks. You can come over here, Mary, and I'll have some company up here with you shortly. She works in our evidence department. She touches many areas of our organization. As we reviewed our nominations, they came in from not just one group, but from throughout our organization, which was speaks volumes to the work Mary does and the help that she provides, going above and beyond, not only for our officers, but everybody within the organization. We're very appreciative to have her as part of our team, and we were very happy to award her with our Civilian Employee of the Year award. Our Supervisor of the Year was Jason Beard, if you can join Mary so she's not lonely. Jason spent the majority of the year as a patrol supervisor in our department, but has recently been reassigned to our Special Investigations Unit as the supervisor over that unit. He is a part of our department that's integral in many places. He's a member of our Special Operations Unit. He's an instructor within our department. He instructs both our VirTra simulator as well as our de-escalation topics. As a supervisor, he touches many parts of our organization, as you can see, from our SOU team to our patrol unit, all the way to our Special Investigations Unit. We had many nominations singing his praise, and we're very proud to have him as part of our team, and very excited to have our Special Investigations Unit off and running, and he's at the helm of that. They're doing good work already, so we're very appreciative of him. Congratulations. Our officer of the year was Jeff Robitaille. Jeff, if you could come up and join us. And he asked if he could bring his partner with him,
Right?
but
Where is it?
well, we joke with him. We're not sure if he was actually officer of the year or if Darby was, and he's just a stand-in for it. But no, Jeff also received numerous nominations from throughout the department. He's been assigned for the last year as our canine officer. He's responsible for getting our canine program up and running. He and his partner Darby, they've been out doing a great job. He's also a part of our special operations unit, and he's as well as he's a drone pilot. He was our inaugural drone pilot in our department. He came to us with some very unique knowledge. He used to fly helicopters for a living, so we put that together. We put that to use in a little bit smaller capacity, but he took that program on, and he's now trained several other pilots within our department and helped them get their certification as well. Impacts us throughout the organization. Again, very proud to have him as part of the team, and congratulations to all of you, and thank you for all you do. Before you guys sit down, I think you have some folks here with you. If you'd like to introduce your guests, because we're very appreciative of those folks as well who support you at home.
Thank you, Chief. I was going to make sure we have family members recognized.
I brought my husband, Jose Hernandez.
I have my daughter with me, Abigail.
Hey, she's sitting down.
Well, we've had a lot going on today, so we're finally at the end of it.
My wife Ashley's here and my mom Dawn.
Thank you guys for joining us.
And if you'll turn around and shake our hands, we'd appreciate it.
Yes. I still want to see that dog. I still want to see.
I'll bring it.
Okay,
Congratulations.
Be careful what you're asking.
I know.
Forgot you were one.
I'm talking.
I have to get, I think,
All right, some neat awards tonight. Very good. All right, I believe we're ready for the Visitors and Citizens Forum now. Do we have any speakers?
Yes, ma'am. We have 3. Tom Featherstone.
And we've been doing 3 minutes, so if, introduce yourself and then 3 minutes.
My name's Tom Featherstone. I don't have a biker name. I wish I did now. I have some graphs.
Thank you.
I'm here to comment on the autoclaved aerated concrete panel production plant called Megacrete that is proposed on Peterson Farm Road. The graph that I've given you was sent to me from Gil Salinas, the executive director of the Kerr Economic Development Corporation. It shows that this plant will use up to 26 million gallons of water per year. How do you reconcile this fact with the fact that the city was forced to impose stage 4 water restrictions as early as this summer? In an email received from Gil Salinas, he stated that Michael Horn's assistant city manager stated to him that this company is not a low water user and will use approximately 3% of the city's daily output. I understand that the city has an allotment of water to use as it sees fit. The city also has an obligation to its citizens to be good stewards of that water. We all saw what happened to the river this summer. When the city was forced to stop taking water from the river and began pumping groundwater, many neighborhoods that use small independent well companies came dangerously close to running out of water. The drought monitor for the state of Texas shows a bullseye directly over the hill country and the city of Kerrville. Common sense should tell us that bringing in this concrete plant is a poor decision. The first rule of government is to protect its people. This project does not protect the people of Kerr County or the city of Kerrville. The people of Kerrville should have a choice to decide if this project is right for the city. I thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Peggy McKay. Peggy McKay, Kerrville. I've spoken on this issue before, and it came up at the last meeting, but there was no opportunity to address it at that time, so I'm back tonight. And it's regarding the affordable housing and workforce housing. Last meeting consensus of council believed that they could meet that goal of supplying that in our area through Lennar's, and I believe it's Winridge development, and that would accomplish the goal that was set out to provide housing for the lower income. There was also discussion about the length of time of the agreement, 30 years, and who would be here, who wouldn't, who would bear the burden, who wouldn't. I'd like to come back to that later. And I know that there is a formula that determines who is eligible for these programs. But once the buyer takes possession is when I get concerned. Apparently, across the nation, issues have developed with poor construction, subpar product that's offered. And once the individuals in their home, their connection to Lennar is not helpful to them. There's all kinds of help to get them into the home, and financially they get in there, but then when these repairs show up, there's nothing for them, and it's disastrous to these people. And using their words, they're saying that they feel trapped, they feel scammed, and they feel deceived. And I know a lot of time and effort has gone into this project by staff, by council. And the goal was to get to affordable housing. But what seemed to have slipped away from the focus was the buyer afterwards. And my heart goes out to these people who are trapped. They have no more income, no more creative financing or accounting to help them with the repairs, and they're not getting help from Lennar. Based on what I've seen in the construction in phase 1, it looks like we may be repeating history in Kerrville, and I hope that this is well supervised. Looking at the construction, it leaves much to be desired. It does not give me confidence it'll be in good health in 30 years. Then going back to the burden, it falls on the individual. And I think they've somewhat been not overlooked, but didn't get the attention I feel they should have had. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tanner Phillips.
Good evening, City Hall. I'm a engineering student from Schreiner University, and I stand before you today to propose a change that I believe will greatly benefit our community. I'm here to advocate for the introduction of the Florida strain largemouth bass into our beloved Guadalupe River. Kerrville's in a unique place in the Hill Country, with the nearest Texas Parks and Wildlife recognized freshwater lake being located almost an hour away. Our river, which runs right next to downtown, is a resource we should be maximizing. Currently, our residents have to travel around 90 minutes by car just to fish this prized bass in other counties. The closest lake that contains these Florida strain is Canyon Lake, which is 90 minutes away. If people from Kerrville are willing to travel this far just to fish these fish, then shouldn't we have them stocked here? I want to consider the potential for tourism. If we stock our river with this popular fish, we could attract anglers from all over the state and the hill country. These visitors would not only enjoy our beautiful river, but they would also spend money in our local businesses to boost our tourism and boost our economy. Instead of our residents having to travel to spend their money elsewhere, we could keep that revenue within our community and use it for things that we care about in the community. By stocking the fish in our river, we would not only enhance our local fish and game, but we would also drive more traffic to our town. People from far and wide coming to Kerrville is always a good thing, and it would foster economic growth for Kerrville, benefiting local businesses and creating a vibrant, bustling community. I urge you to consider this proposal, and let's bring the Florida strain largemouth bass to the Guadalupe River for the benefit of our community and the future of Kerrville. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That is the end of the citizen speakers, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
I did for other items. Can I speak here too, or?
3 minutes, please.
I won't take the full 3 minutes, but I did want to comment on the Mega Crete project and really just on economic development and the way our tax dollars are used in that method in general. So I believe if we are going to put taxpayer dollars toward recruiting businesses or people to come to Kerrville, I believe at the very least that those businesses should be American owned, or at least Texas owned, instead of recruiting people that are from other countries that own the business outside of our country. So just that's my 2 cents. If American tax dollars are going toward that, I believe it should be for American owned businesses. Thank you.
Thank you.
That is the end of the citizen speakers.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Featherstone, if you would not mind making an appointment to visit with either Mr. Dalton, our city manager, or Michael Hornis, there might be some information that would be interesting for you to get.
Yes, I've been emailed from Mega Crete themselves about the project, but they don't even have a plan for it yet. I'm not sure how it got passed without a plan, but.
If you would visit with them, like I said, okay, they would be happy to do that. Thank you. All right, we are ready for the consent agenda, and I believe we have pulled 4A, so we only have 2 minutes to approve 4B and 4C. Do we have a motion?
Mayor, I'll move to approve the consent agenda items 4B and 4C.
Second?
Yes, ma'am.
Jeff has seconded that. All in favor, right hand. And it is approved. 5A. 4A.
Oh, it's 5.
That was pulled?
No, we pulled 4A.
Okay, so are we discussing that then?
No, we are not discussing.
Removed from the agenda
It's
altogether.
Pulled.
it's
I
been
didn't know.
pulled.
Oh,
Yes.
my apologies.
Yes,
I did not know it had been.
Yes, yes.
Overheard it.
So we've done 4B and 4C, from the consent agenda. We are now ready for 5A. Okay, don't get me all mixed up. Okay, Shelley, if you'll read that in, please.
Request for variance from distance requirement applicable to the sale of the alcoholic beverages per section 10-3 Code of Ordinances for the property addressed as 1013 Main Street, La Library.
All right, do we have anyone signed up to speak on this?
Oh, no.
Okay, all right.
But it's a public hearing.
And
It is a public hearing.
It's a public hearing,
Yes.
that's right. All right, who is going to, Drew?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a request from the library to have a alcoholic beverage permit at 1013 Main Street. They are within 300 feet of St. Peter's Episcopal Church and School and Notre Dame Catholic School, both which have a state-issued licensed daycare permit or daycare license. So that our ordinance does require it come before council for a variance. You can consider that variance that it either is not in the best interest of the public to require the separation or not, constitutes a waste or inefficient use of land, creates an undue hardship on the applicant, and does not serve for the intended purpose of the property, is not effective or necessary, or any other reason that council has to consider the health, safety, and welfare of the public of the situation, you may grant this variance. I did speak with representative from St. Peter's Episcopal Church and School. She was going to meet with their vestry, their elders of the church. As their discussion from the school side, they had no issue with it. I did not hear from anybody from Notre Dame Catholic School.
I also spoke to St. Peter's, and they were actually very, very much in favor of it. And I know that Notre Dame has spoken, and they have discussed it, but I was not able to get any answers from them, so. All right, council, questions for Drew?
It's a public hearing, so.
Is the applicant here? There they are. Okay. Would you like to tell us who you are and?
Chad and Kristen Huber. We have filled out the application for La Librairie. It's actually a bookstore that will serve alcoholic beverages. So it's designed to be a relaxing, comfortable place for folks in Kerrville to come enjoy reading, which we don't do enough of anymore, and community, and to spend some time enjoying downtown.
What would your hours of operation? Do you have, has that been decided yet?
It hasn't been firmly decided, but not late hours. So I would imagine the latest we would be open would be 8 or 9 o'clock in the evenings.
Okay. Questions for them, council?
What time were you thinking about starting? Opening?
Most likely in the morning with coffee, but not with alcoholic beverages. So there would be coffee in the mornings, and started at 7 or 8 o'clock.
And so what are your, I guess, your time frame for selling alcohol beverages there?
The time frame that we would sell them part of the day, I would imagine lunchtime through after dinner.
So probably 12?
Correct.
Okay. I'm trying to get an estimate because they're, kids are still in school. There's a church there. So trying to get an estimate of when the alcohol could be served around those times that could potentially, provide any type of health or safety in that area. Thank you.
Would it be a beer and wine or everything? license?
Probably wine and mixed drinks.
Oh, that's everything.
Yep.
Yeah.
Any other questions, council?
A lot of history in that house.
That's what we hear. It's a perfect location. That's it has the history and the age. It's a beautiful place.
It is. It's a lovely, lovely facility.
Have you considered having your time frame to sell alcohol a little bit later, considering after school is out and there are no more kids in the area? I mean, you're right. There's 2 blocks away, and I know that the the playscape or the playground is right there. So just curious if you considered waiting a little bit until later to do that.
I hadn't considered it. One of the reasons the germination of this idea was as a business owner in Kerrville, sometimes you want to go have lunch, have a business meeting, and you want to just have a place where you can relax. That's not a restaurant with hard tables and hard chairs and just kind of wants you in and out and maybe enjoy an adult beverage at lunch. Not to excess. I think that's why Kristen, my lovely bride, wrote the letter that explains what we want to do, but it's really a bookstore first, just with the ability to also have an adult beverage, alcoholic beverages. So please don't see the application as a bar in that location. It's really the offshoot of a community bookshop that just wants to have a more welcoming.
And will you have complete meals?
No complete meals, some prepared meals. So things, some prepared foods, packaged foods like sandwiches, finger foods, charcuterie, that kind of thing. So there's not a commercial kitchen there, so no preparation would be made.
And those would be from other local businesses in the area that we've already spoken to.
Cool.
Did you have a conversation with Notre Dame?
I spoke to the principal there.
Yes.
And she was in favor of it. The priest, who I guess is over the school, was on a retreat last week, so she couldn't really speak on his behalf. She said, I don't think he would have a problem. I do know she gave him the letter and the information when he got back, but I hadn't heard from him specifically.
Okay. And she is on a conference this week, and it's why I was not able to speak with you.
Yes,
so-
and I do have an email from her saying, you know, I think it's a good idea, we'd love to see you move forward. She just couldn't speak on his behalf.
Okay, other questions, council? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. all
Thank
of
you.
Thank you.
All right, are there any other comments? Rowan?
Nope.
Jeff? Joe? Brenda? Okay, are we ready to vote?
Open the public hearing.
Oh, thank you, yes. At 6:45, we will open the public hearing.
George Brody, 1616 Glen Road. So I'm a little unsure on this particular one, but is this variance allowing alcohol sales at this property, or is it tied to this business? And because if it's tied to the property, then it's, I mean, potentially, yeah, they're doing a bookstore thing, but you may be locking yourself into alcohol sales at this property. So it's a question, I don't know the answer.
I think it's his property.
Yes.
Mike Siegerman, and I live in Kerrville, and I think you guys are playing with fire. I think to grant a variance for alcohol consumption on a property that's as close as it is to schools and churches, whether the schools and churches really are not opposed to it or not, this is a bad precedent to set. Because once you start the process of granting a variance for alcohol consumption inside the boundary requirements, you're opening up a can of worms that you're going to have a hard time dealing with the next time somebody comes to ask for that same distance variance. I understand that this business wants to be there, but this is a real big issue. Once you establish the precedent, you're granting a variance for alcohol consumption inside the distance requirement that the city ordinances have. I think it's a big mistake.
Thank you.
Drew, do we have any
So the rec-
precedent set?
we have approved several other variances. Trying to think off the top of my head where they are. We've had one on Coley Drive that backs up to the Methodist Church, which also has a daycare license. What was the last one we just did? I can't remember either. I think we've done 2 or 3 in the last 4 or 5 years. All within either school, church, hospital, or daycare are the 4 protected entities. So,
Can we get confirmation? Is it the variance with the property?
Mr. Hayes, is that subject to?
You know, I was just looking, I think it doesn't say. So I think you could make an argument that it's with the property.
Right. Because it's a zoning regulation, right?
Actually, this is all under state law.
Okay, so then there you go. So yeah, essentially I think would be stuck with the property. Can, Mr. Paxton, are we able to put any type of, this isn't a conditional use permit, so I don't know the answer, but are we allowed to put any type of condition to say that if we grant the variance, the sale and consumption of alcohol can only be, you know, after a certain period of, after certain hours during the day?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, so it's just yes or no on the variance?
Correct.
Okay.
And, Mr. Garcia, part of the reason for, the big reason for that is we're preempted by state law.
Right.
From regulating alcohol. They give us this authority for variances and distance requirements, but that's one of the few exceptions.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I have been torn too by the fact that we have a law and we have something in place, and do we go by that, or do we make variances? Drew?
And also point out, this is a newer regulation. The city of Kerrville adopted this about 5 or 6 years ago. So we do have other properties and businesses that are grandfathered already. If I'm not mistaken, Mini Mart next door sells alcohol. Beer and wine, obviously, for off-premise consumption versus on-premise consumption here. So anyone purchasing anything here wouldn't be taking it out of the property. They'd have to finish it or leave it on property, so.
I'd say that's a fair statement, but I would, say to council that we are now dealing with a new regulation. So they've been grandfathered in, but now the state has something different that we have to follow. So as much as we can take that into consideration, for me, that's not a heavy factor for me to consider in favor of allowing the variance to be in place. And I was going to ask, because I went in and looked at our history, I think we've only done, since I've been on council, maybe one in the past 3 years. And I think he said probably past 5 years, maybe 2 or 3. So it's not something we do very often. And I think the biggest factor we got to consider is what is the best thing in terms of the health and safety and well-being of our community. And as much as I respect the business that they're trying to create there, it's and by the way, for those looking at the map, I think that radius is 200 feet, so the 300 feet extends another 100 feet outside of that. So that's not actually showing the 300 feet radius. So it would actually go over Notre Dame and the church, which is why we're having to consider it. And to me, it's just a little too close. And if there were a way to regulate until after hours, when school's out and the children are no longer walking home from school or playing in that area, then I'd be more than happy to consider that. Those are my comments.
Mayor, we haven't received any indication that Notre Dame or St. Peter's oppose this.
And as I said, I was told by Notre Dame that, or by St. Peter's, that very honestly, they were excited about it. They thought it would be a good thing for our downtown. And now Notre Dame, I don't know on that
But there's an email.
specifically. But yes, there is, she says she has an email.
And to Mr. Seigerman's point, there are other instances where this has already been granted, right? On Colley Drive, is that correct? Colley?
Coley Drive.
So it's not as if we're opening a precedent that hasn't already been opened.
But where do we draw the line at abiding by our own variances? That's what I'm struggling with. I wouldn't have nearly the problem with this if it were after hours, but with it being, an all-day business, and from my perspective, it's, protecting the children in that area. So.
We can't, as a motion, we can't have as a condition that.
No, it's yes or no. Would tabling it make any difference for anybody in any way?
It might give the operator a chance to consider the concerns that they've heard here tonight, especially about serving times.
Looking over to legal and Mr. Paxton, is there then like an agreement that they can sign or something to say that of when they will serve?
I mean, I can research that issue, but I don't think so. I think when they go to the state and seek a permit for the type of alcohol they're gonna sell, and then they get the constraints with that permit, which are hours and other regulations.
No, it's difficult.
May I make another?
Yes.
I just want to say that in our region, nationwide, by the way, this type of business is actually something that's kind of growing. Like we had wineries come into the Hill Country. It's just it is not an unknown entity. And if you go either direction on Main Street, or if you go to Water Street, there are already places where somebody has to drive one direction or the other after drinking on premises. So it's not as if we're creating in an area that doesn't have any other access to an alcoholic beverage, a new, a unique source. So I just want to say that we're blocks away from downtown with wineries and breweries. So thank you for letting me have
Kind of
another
an on-the-spot question for
ma'am.
you. Would
Sure.
changing hours for serving alcohol make a difference? Could it?
Well, I don't know that could, going back to y'all's discussion on whether or not that has anything to do with
No,
the variance.
that we wouldn't
whether or not
impose it. It would be you saying that this is
Right.
what we could live with.
So honestly, the lunch and after lunch, you know, that's probably a decent number. Where we are in Kerrville, you know, we're not Fredericksburg, so we don't get all of the traffic all day long. So in order for us to bring folks in, having a little bite of food and a place to shop and sit and enjoy a beverage if that's what they choose to do. We're also going to have coffee and gourmet teas and organic drinks. So there are other things there, but that middle of the day draw is part of the business.
If you did middle of the day and after school,
I'm not against that idea at all. I mean, I don't know that there's a great business plan for, you know, 2 to 4:30 anyway. It's just a matter of, like most retail businesses, you kind of have to stay open during the lull to catch the next, you know, group of people.
And even there, that's something that we wouldn't be able to enforce.
Right, that's
Right,
my
right,
point.
I
I understand your question on it, and I know that, you know, from both a business perspective and a parent's perspective, and one of the reasons why both of the schools are happy about it is we're gonna have a large children's section, and we actually would like to partner with the schools to be able to do readings that are appropriate and safe. So again, it is a bookstore with the option for someone to have a drink. It is not a bar that also sells books.
Mike, I have a question on what he just stated, and I know you're not a TABC attorney, but you're gonna have a liquor license, you're gonna have liquor on premise.
That's correct.
Are you just gonna let kids come in there after school? They gotta be accompanied by an adult or a guardian if there's
Cool.
alcohol
So
being
there'll be
served on premise.
Separate entrances, that's correct.
Okay.
And the building has 11 rooms, the way that it's currently situated. And so it works really well for having 2 entrances.
I go to a lot of business lunches and I never have a glass of wine at lunch and I love it, but that's just, you know, that's me. So it's,
Okay. So if any other questions I can answer, I'll sit back down. Okay, thank you.
thank you. Well, council, I guess we are, unless we have more comments and questions, we're probably at a position to vote.
Mayor, if there's nothing else, I'll end with this. Respect what you're trying to do with your business, but I'm going to stick with the safety of the kids there and the families and what we have in state law. So my motion is to deny the variance request.
I was
Do we
second.
have a second?
Yes, ma'am.
We have a second.
And, Mayor, would you close the public hearing?
Right.
Oh,
thank
I'm
you.
sorry, thank you, yes. At 6:58, we will close the public hearing. But we do have a motion on the floor, we have a second. All in favor of the motion, which is to deny, please raise your right hand. All right, it passes. I'm sorry. If there's any way you can make any changes and come back and see us, well, you probably wouldn't need to come back and see us, but good luck, good luck.
Thank you.
All right, we are ready for public hearing number 2, 5B. Shelley?
Resolution number 05, 2024, resolution pursuant to section 2306.67071 Texas Government Code with respect to tax exempt bond applications for housing tax credits and finding no objection from City Council as to the applicant, Involved Communities LLC, its application or the developments which are known as Heritage Oak Apartments and the Meadows Apartments. There are no citizen speakers signed up, however, this is a public hearing.
Okay, there he is,
We're gonna
Michael.
keep y'all on your toes with the back
Yes.
and forth. So, Mayor and Council, thank y'all for taking the time. This is gonna be one of 2 resolutions. This first one, the requirement is to hold a public hearing, and the second one, as you'll see further in the packet, is just consideration. So, the Public Facility Corporation met, as you all are the body members for the Public Facility Corporation, to consider this project. Martin, okay, thank you. So, the new owners of both the Heritage Oaks and the Meadows approached the Public Facility Corporation to consider taking on this project and being the project manager, bond issuer, product purchaser, all those conditions, and everything that's involved in that. What we also discussed was the ability for the Alamo Area Council of Governments to take on this project through their Housing Finance Corporation, for which they've done several of these projects so far. And so after deliberation and talking back and forth, the PFC said this was a good recommendation to take it through ACOG because the reservation for this funding through the state would come quicker and the allocation would be faster. And so as a part of that, just briefly to go over the project, these are 2 apartment complexes totaling about 150 units. This is part of what is called low-income housing tax credits, and these were created about 25 years ago. And so not long from now, those tax credits are set to run out, and so the owners of these properties, in an effort to rehabilitate them and continue to utilize them in a manner that keeps that rent at a reduced rate, so these are about 60% AMI, they can go through this new mechanism through this Housing Finance Corporation or through the PFCs. So they asked, and this is why we're here. So what are they going to do? They're going to replace the roofs. They're going to redo the kitchens, paint, redo some of the exteriors on the facilities on the outside. In total, about I think $10 million worth of renovations is what they said they were going to do. So, as a part of the process of going through this application through TDHCA, 2 things are required. One is this resolution of no objection from the council. And so that is what we are here to talk about today. And with that, I will turn it over to any questions you have either before or after the public hearing. Madam Mayor.
Anybody have any questions for Michael before we go to the public hearing? The applicant is not here, right?
Unfortunately, no. He had a scheduling conflict and he couldn't make it. He is very sorry about that. And he wanted to be here, but he could not make it.
Thank you. All right, at 7:02, we will open the public hearing.
Just asking this for
Tell us who
personal-
you are, please.
I'm sorry, Jerry Wolf.
And where do you reside?
Kerrville. Just for my own information, explain the housing tax credits. I know it's some sort of state program.
You want me to answer? I can do it into each time, it's fine. The housing tax credit, so this is a program that was set up through the federal government over 30 years ago to allow for affordable apartments to be built. And so those things had about a 30-year lifespan, and they are starting to run out. Although Congress has authorized some new dollars, I believe. But essentially, throughout the state of Texas and the nation, there are affordable apartments that were subsidized 30 years ago, 25 years ago.
Okay, the federal government allocated so much money to each state, as I understand it, and then each state, including Texas, formed a Texas Housing Department, or
so
to
Texas
allocate these tax credits to the various projects throughout the state?
Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs, yes, sir.
Yes, okay. All right, thank you.
Yes?
Peggy McKay, Kerrville. I just have 2 questions. One, will the residents be relocated during construction, or is it one unit at a time that'll be approached? And also, will the rents go up from what they are now?
So really good questions, Ms. McKay. When the developer was here at the Public Facility Corporation meeting, that question was asked. And by and large, no one is going to be moved. There are a few specialty apartments that folks will need to be rehoused because of the special nature of those apartments. But the majority of the folks will be able to stay in place. So I think it's the adaptive use rooms require a little bit of, they need to move people out in order to do the repairs that they have to use. then put them, and then they'd come back home. And then the second question was,
Rent
rents.
rates?
So the rent rates are based on the AMIs, and so those rents fluctuate each year. But they do so based on the rates that are set by HUD and TDH. Well, HUD sets those rates for Kirk County.
Revamp has nothing to do with
It,
setting rates.
no, ma'am. The value for the AMI that's placed for Kirk County sets the determination of that, and each individual person's rent is, it's different. There's some folks on there who are fully on, it's 90, 100% of their rent is taken care of, but it's all on a sliding scale based on their AMI.
Thank you. Anyone else who'd like to speak?
Man, this is when I wish Summer Greathouse was here. She's so good at these questions.
This is George Berry, 6 and 16 Glen Road. So I just want to clarify that the Public Facility Corporation is not participating in this at all. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes,
Okay.
sir.
And then to Mr. Wolf's thing, the biggest thing the tax credits are getting this developer is they're getting their financing, but the hook that's in it is it's not just that the price is a certain point. They got to qualify the incomes of the people that are renting. So it's a good deal for our area. And if the developer can make it work, I assume the reason it was sold is because the timing was running out on that tax credit. And so they needed to get out before it caught them. So anyway.
Thank you.
But no, it is important to know this will not cost the city anything. So that's the beauty of it. Anyone else like to speak? All right, at 7:07, we will close the public hearing. Council, are you, any further questions or comments, or are we ready to vote?
I'm ready to.
You want to make a motion?
Yes, ma'am. I'll move to approve resolution number 05-2024.
Second.
Second, all in favor, right hand, please, and it is unanimous. We are ready for 6A. Shelley?
Ordinance number 2024-01, second reading, an ordinance ordering a special election to be held on May 4th, 2024 for the purpose of submitting propositions to the voters for proposed amendments to the city charter, said election to be held in conjunction with the city's general election, establishing early voting times and places, and providing for public review. There are no citizen speakers signed up, and if this ordinance is passed tonight, I do need all council signatures on the notice of election.
Okay. All right. Is anyone signed up?
No, ma'am.
No, okay. Mr. Hayes?
Just, this is second reading. The next action will be the election in May, and before that, early April, second week in April, there'll be we have to publish notice of this, and it'll have the specific amendments and any fiscal impacts to those amendments, and that'll go into that'll be published in the newspaper. But no changes to the, since your last meeting and the amendment that you requested, nothing has changed.
And it is, again, we'll just reiterate, it's really important for the public to, this is their vote, and they need to become educated, and we would appreciate that. Any comments from anyone? Do we have a motion?
I'll move to approve ordinance number 2024-01 on second reading.
Second.
We have a second and a third. We have a second from Joe. All in favor, right hand, please. And it is unanimous. Thank you. And do you want to do that right now with the?
Well, we actually have another.
Oh, there's a
paper
second one to go
that
with
we
it.
might
Yes.
have to sign, so I'll wait.
Okay. Okay. Okay, we are ready for some ordinances on the first reading, number 7A.
Ordinance
ordinance number 2024-03, an ordinance amending the city's code of ordinances by repealing Chapter 78, peddlers and solicitors in its entirety, replacing it with a new Article 6, solicitations within Chapter 30, businesses of the city's code of ordinances. This new article adopts revised regulations concerning canvassers, solicitors, and peddlers as those terms are defined, providing for penalties not to exceed $500, ordering publication, providing an effective date, and providing other matters related to the subject. We do have 5 citizen speakers signed up.
All right, Guillermo, you want to start?
I'll turn it over to Mike first.
You're gonna have some dueling staffers. This is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And this is one of those ordinances, I think we've talked about it before, that certainly deserves some review and council consideration. We have an ordinance in chapter, or a chapter of our current code of ordinances, Chapter 78, that deals with peddlers and solicitors, and so that regulates door-to-door sales, street sales, open air markets, licenses, and has some built-in exemptions as well. Whenever I'm tasked with reviewing these ordinances, of course, I look at the laws. Laws change, make sure there's nothing that has changed or that may impact what we're trying to do. And there were some definite deficiencies in Chapter 78 that we needed to address. This is one of those areas of the law that there's some First Amendment protections for, right? And so I hear this sometimes, why can't we just completely prohibit these kinds of activities, at least coming door to door? There are First Amendment rights that attach, and there's a balancing of rights. It's that freedom of speech versus reasonable regulations that are content neutral, time, place, and manner. Maybe you've heard that before. And cities do have a right to regulate these activities, essentially to lessen opportunities for crime and fraud and to protect privacy. And you see there's a big Supreme Court case on this that we all look to. And then there's cases periodically where cities have decided to regulate in a certain form or fashion, and there's a lawsuit that results from that. I also, when I look at the law, I'm in the business of, I don't have to recreate the wheel every time, and so I look to other cities, in particular like our benchmark cities. Maybe you've heard that term before. Cities around this area, cities roughly our size, roughly the distance from the bigger cities. What I try to do also with a mind toward getting you all, in this case, a complete rewrite of an ordinance, is kind of give you a menu of what other cities are doing. And I do that with also an ear toward the complaints I've heard over the years about these types of activities coming to people's homes and apartments and things of that nature. And so when I start reviewing these ordinances, and I probably looked at 15 or 20, and roughly 80% of them are the same, right? But that's where I discovered these do not knock lists, signage that people can put up, prohibited hours, background checks, and then a requirement to display an ID that's issued. You'll see in the regulations and the ordinance before you, there's a purpose statement, and I think that's always important to put in an ordinance. And so you'll see that purpose statement along with the recitals about kind of the intent behind the ordinance. These are the amendments before you, the bigger things that are new to this ordinance. Certainly, we're adding new definitions for canvassers, peddlers, and solicitors. We're adding hours of canvassing and solicitation. We're making entry upon premises unlawful when signs are posted. And obviously, people post signs now. I don't know if you all done that in your homes or not. But now, if you do that and people come up on your property to sell you things or to solicit things, then that's against the law, and we can cite for that. We will issue a permit that's required to be displayed. There's some exceptions to the fee requirement. We're providing a 90-day permit. So that, in essence, that makes it that they have to come back instead of our current permit process is a year. And then we're adding that do not knock list. let me speak to the limited hours. And again, these are some of the things I hear over the years where people call me. You know, there are concerns about after dark, people coming to the front door. They're retired, that, you know, they value their privacy. They don't want to be bothered. And even if they have a sign, no soliciting sign, it doesn't appear to work. And so we periodically get calls about that. You know, what can y'all do to prohibit that? So maybe you've seen this in the summer months. We've had literally organizations from out of state come in with van loads of college kids that go door to door, and we get complaints about that. After we've had storms in the area, we have people that are coming in interested in repairing homes, and they're from out of town, and they come in, again, kind of similar types of situation, all in one car, all in a van, and they just go out and they flood the neighborhoods, and we do get complaints about that. So the restrictions on the time frame, which in the ordinance before you is 8 p.m. to 8 a.m., that's to try to limit that. And what cities have done is they've done sundown to sunup, and courts have said, well, that is so nebulous and vague, it's better to put a time in there. And so that's what I'm putting before you. But the intent behind 8 a.m. or 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. is to the darker time of the day. There is no Supreme Court case on this specific issue, and there are cases out there, and they are divided. Someone called me today about a case out of Indiana, and we both agreed, well, that doesn't apply to the federal district that we're in. Again, I talked about other cities that I looked at with these types of similar hours. Some went a little bit farther, you know, 9 p.m. to 9 a.m., 8 p.m. to 9 a.m. Some of them prohibited the activities on the weekends or holidays, and that's not in the ordinance before you. But I looked at Fredericksburg. They have a similar kind of restriction. Bernie, Abilene, Lake Jackson, and there are others. And so, again, I try to give you all what other cities are doing, and then you all can decide what community values are, what your values are. And just like the short-term rental ordinance, there were some things that staff put in there for you all to consider that you took out. And so, bottom line, I'm comfortable with the ordinance before you. I'm comfortable with the legality of it, and I look forward to your discussion.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay, Guillermo?
Yeah, so I have a little quick presentation. It's going to cover many of the things that Mike just spoke about, but I do want to add that there was a lot of conversations between the city attorney's office and development services. A lot of feedback because that's where the permits currently are being issued. And just as information, one of the things I did research prior to coming here, last year alone in fiscal year 23, we only issued 4 permits, and we haven't issued any this to date right now, for many reasons, I think. But other than that, I think some of the major changes, you know, just to give you some historical context, is that this code or this regulation was first adopted in 1968, and then the last major update was 1991, and then we had some minor tweaks in 92. But when you look at this ordinance or this code, it's been 32 years since it's been updated. And so there's things that we need to make sure that we update to make sure that we stay in line. And before I forget, one of the things, this is also an item that's been talked about in council retreats, and it's something that we looked at and discussed and thought we would bring forward to you over the course of the period of time since our last council retreat. Some of the major changes, Mike highlighted some of those, but I did want to kind of go through some of the ones that I think a little bit more detail. One, of course, we recommend repealing Chapter 78, the Peddlers and Solicitors Ordinance Code, and actually put it in as new article, Article 6, under door-to-door, under Chapter 30 in businesses. And the idea is to focus really on protecting our residential areas. One of the things, as Mike said, we did increase the amount of definitions that were in the code. We also established those hours of operation that Mike just talked about. And then one of the things I found interesting was the property owners may prohibit. And they may do that by putting up a sign that reads "No peddlers" or "No solicitors" at the entrance of their homes or on the primary, in the primary building. And then also, one of the new things that we will implement as well is residents of Kerrville are going to be able to sign up for a do not knock list, which allows them to be on that list for 5 years. And so that's something we'll have to develop, but I think it's very doable for us. Requirements, selling and offering goods for sale on public property such as streets and roads and medians is still illegal. Section 3189 mandates the background check, fingerprints by the police department before issuing a permit, and I did look at other ordinances, and that is something that is being done by other cities as well. And then according to 3192, the processing time for applications is up to 10 days, and 3197 outlines the processes for revoking a permit, while 3198 details the appeals process, which currently doesn't exist in our current ordinance. That's all I had.
I was curious on the do not knock list. Is that something that would end up being available to others, if you sign up for it? Would it be available to the public? Is it just a list that the city would keep?
What I've seen from other cities is they publish that list, and as the individual coming in to get a permit, they're handed a copy of that list so that they know where not to go knock. And so I've kind of been thinking about this process, and I think we can do it online, where people just register online, and then we can produce a report that just produces that.
Okay, so if I did it, I could see if my neighbor was on the do not knock list.
Yes, ma'am.
You could, okay.
Gil, does the people who come to town selling the banana bread in parking lots of restaurants and businesses, do they fall under this also, or are they under more of a food ordinance?
That's a good question. I don't know, but I think some of those also fall under some religious activities, but I have to double check that because I really don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
I think the answer to that is they wouldn't fall under this because it talks about canvassing. The definition of a canvasser or a peddler or a solicitor is someone who goes onto the premise of a private residence and tries to make contact with that person. So if they're just on the corner of a street, they're not trying to go on the private property of a residence and make contact with them, as defined.
Yeah, right.
Mike?
Mr. Garcia is correct. I mean, again, and this is a residential thing. We talked about applying it to commercial properties, but the thought is that commercial properties are geared toward either they're allowing the public in, or they're geared toward making sure that there's no solicitors on their property, and it's up to them to move these people along.
So would this, I've got a neighbor who, he's in junior high and he wants to sell tickets to the sausage supper. And he's going up and down the street.
Yeah. Mayor, let me answer that. And so I had conversations with Mr. Herring this week, whose kids were apparently pretty adept at doing these types of activities. And in looking at the ordinance again over the last few days, what I would suggest you do is you build in an exception for that, because it's a temporary activity. And so, let me say, there are permit requirements and exemptions under 30-184, and I would move this over from our current ordinance, which would say something along the lines of temporary sales sponsored by charitable nonprofit organizations, including Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, service clubs, and school organizations would be exempt.
While we're on that, then I'd like to see if we can add something. A kid walking around the neighborhood offering to mow people's lawns is asking for a service and receipt of a compensation for it would fall under a solicitor, I think. So that's what I'm really trying to figure out how we're going to regulate this, have spontaneous, probably one-off things, or maybe even he's now doing it as a business, how that's going to work. So taking that into consideration of those regulations. I do have a couple of things. I understand the main, from my understanding from staff, so please correct me if I'm mistaken, the reason to do this is to prevent criminal activity or the unwanted activity, protect privacy. I think we even use in one of the whereas clauses, petty annoyances or disrupt the quiet. So do we have evidence of that here in Kerrville that we can point to say, this is the problem we're trying to solve here?
I mean, I don't take those, you know, I don't mark a box when I get a call about that, but I get calls periodically about those activities. Yeah, I get, you know, or shoot, I'm even at church, and just in the last few months, someone asked me about, hey, do you all have something on your books that prevent this? And, you know, my drop answer for all those things is call development services and file a complaint. But, yeah, I think we live in a community where we certainly have a large number of retirees and people at home, and you know, we have these issues. Now, I don't know if PD can answer that. I don't know if they get calls periodically. This isn't one of those, you know, certainly high crimes and misdemeanors or anything like that, but it does happen. I get calls.
Okay. I'd like to see if we're going to be trying to address that problem. I think it's important that if we're going to adopt an ordinance that tries to address that we have the evidence of crime that is directly linked to this type of door-to-door solicitation, because if it's crime that's not otherwise linked to this, then I don't see that there's a problem with that. I feel like there's one of the ways that we could, you know, enforce this in a way of people not wanting people knocking on their doors or talking to them is the person either doesn't open the door, or if they open the door and figure out what that individual is trying to sell them, you ask them to leave, and if they don't leave, they're now trespassing. And so I think the enforcement of our trespassing laws is a mechanism that we have to do that. I'm curious about how the do not knock list is going to work, because I'm wondering if they have different options to select, like I only do not want solicitors, or is it a blanket thing, because one person may not want to be sold about anything, but hey, I'll let canvassing, you can come and talk to me about your religious or political views, and that's okay, I'm willing to have those conversations. And I think we need to consider those options and whether someone else can somehow sign someone else up for that do not knock list and how that works. One of the concerns I have with that list, though, is I feel like it's a potential to probably target specific individuals. So if that do not knock list is then publicized, a criminal who has criminal intent can get that list and say, okay, these are the individuals who don't want us or maybe a little bit vulnerable, so I'm going to try to target those situations, and I would hate for that to happen in our community. Same thing with the no solicitor signs. We're now including canvassers and peddlers within a no solicitation sign, so I think it's understood that if you have that sign, you don't want to be sold anything. Same thing with the do not knock list. Does that mean, right now with the ordinance, a canvasser couldn't go up to their house and do that, whereas there have been court cases that have determined solicitation is specifically for the sales of goods or services, and that's why it's up to us to define what that is, and I don't like the way that we're just putting it all together. I think that's why we define them differently. And then the hours, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., I like to see that extended. The case, I think, in Illinois, I think is one of the what you brought up, if that's right, Yorktown or something, York something. It was like 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., so they had a later one that they did, but they also started later, right? I'd like to be able to see that, because you look at during the summer months, it's not even dark until after 9, and you're stopping people from going out and expressing their freedom of speech later or earlier than they probably otherwise would want to. So, but I definitely like, if this is a way council wants to go, like looking at some of those exceptions to see what those are going to include for those spontaneous, temporary, whatever we take a look at there. And I'm just, what I've noticed is that this ordinance specifically included a lot more on the religious and political speech, which in my opinion, I think in the court's opinion too, has been the most protected, or should be the most protected type of speech in our country. And because it's not commercial speech, it's non-commercial speech. And so I really, really want us to be careful about how we go about that, because the old solicitation ordinance did not have any of that in here. Now we do have it in here. So something that has to think about, just be careful about that. Thank you.
Jeff, any comments?
I want to hold off until after the public speaks.
No? Linda, after? Okay, let us open. I do need to open it.
No, ma'am.
No, just puppy, okay.
Yes, ma'am. Nikki Caines.
Haynes, I'm in here in Kerrville. I think one of my biggest problems with the overall was the definition written of a canvasser. As Councilman Garcia stated, anyone who, for the primary purpose of attempting to solicit or elicit support for or against a particular religion, philosophy, ideology, political party, issue, or candidate, that just covers all of our free speech. So as far as, I like the way the old, the first one had solicitor and canvasser together, and this one separates it, but this is, this gives me heartache when I look at the exact definition. I would either ask you to strike it or define it so that a canvasser who is canvassing for profit versus nonprofit. But then you have to consider, if you've got a new business in town, they may be walking their neighborhoods and putting out their cards to get their business going. That's soliciting for profit, but are you gonna cut them out too? And of course, the political or religious, I'm thinking VBS, you're gonna stop kids from going to their neighbor's house and inviting them to their summer VBS programs? I don't see that at all. So I, in particular, would like the definition of canvasser either totally struck or totally redefined. When we're talking about that do not knock list, I also agree. It does say the city manager to be placed, if someone wants to be placed on the do not knock list, indicating that they do not want, again, canvassers, solicitors, or peddlers. I'm a big girl. If somebody comes to my door, I don't want to speak to them, I don't answer the door. Or I answer the door and say, no thanks, you can leave now. So to include canvassers there, I think if it's going to be on a website and a do not knock list, that resident should have to particularly choose what they want or do not want. Or, like most of us, you put a sign up at your door. I do appreciate the fact that there are exemptions, and one of the exemptions is a canvasser. But that exemption is that they don't have to get a permit. That does not eliminate all the other functions that they will be held accountable for. So I really would like the whole ordinance to just, if you just take another look at it and think of it from a personal versus a business aspect. I've had realtors come by and they drop a card and a bag of candy. They're trying to get our attention. That's a whole lot cheaper than them having to put out a mailer. It's the same thing. Are you going to stop them from doing a mailer next? Because a mailer is a type of canvassing. So if you could just redefine what canvassing is, I think that would help. Thank you.
Jacqueline Hall.
All right, Jacqueline Hall, 1800 Junction Highway. So often we forget in a lot of this conversation of religious rights, political rights, all those kind of things, that free speech, exercise of religion, press, redress of grievances, public assembly, all these rights are from God. They're not from a piece of paper. They're not from a governmental body. So yes, the First Amendment does protect all the rights that I just listed, but ultimately God has granted them to us. So no government body or any man should ever encroach on those God-given rights. So I'm not sure why council is considering further encroachment on free speech. To we the citizens, it sure looks like interesting timing due to the upcoming city election. This ordinance will also affect any of y'all that are running for office coming up. So it'll interfere with your ability to campaign door to door, which in my experience is the most effective way to reach voters. It's in block walkers' best interest not to be annoying because they do their best not to double knock doors because the annoyance reflects poorly on their candidate of choice. The problem so the question is, what problem are we trying to solve here? It seems like a solution without a problem. As I kind of briefly went over the ordinance, my two biggest concerns are changing the definition of canvasser. I think previous speakers have already addressed that pretty well. Why not stick with the old definition? My second concern is the no-knock list. Why should citizens expect city council to police who comes to their door? We all have personal responsibility, as was already addressed. We can choose to answer the door or not. We can order someone to leave our personal property. That is within our right. There are already laws against theft and murder. We citizens have the God-given right to self-defense and the ability to call the police if we feel that our lives are threatened or our property in danger. Speaking of police, asking our brave law enforcement to take on this additional responsibility of enforcing a no-knock list is an unreasonable expectation in my view. I'd rather that our police focus on real crime that endangers people's lives rather than enforcing free speech. So I respectfully ask that you vote down this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Barbara Dool Ferguson.
Barbara Dool Ferguson here in Kerrville. And one technical part of it that bothers me that's very confusing is that Section 3181 is in conflict with Section 3182 in that 3182 requires the registration. I might have put down the wrong number. People have done that before, haven't they? The conflict is that it says only people required to obtain a permit will be given the do not knock list. But then it says that canvassers do not have to get a permit. But then it says it is unlawful for any canvasser to approach people on the do not knock list. So that has to be addressed even if you don't do anything else. At my reading of this, I have no idea whether as a canvasser I would have to register or not, and I don't have any idea whether I would have to get the do not knock list or not. So that conflict needs to be resolved. But more importantly, this ordinance for the first time introduces religious and political free speech into regulation here in Kerrville. Do the residents of Kerrville really want to have our local government stepping into this realm? Do we really want our city to risk a lawsuit regarding our free speech? As Mr. Hayes said, there have been court rulings on both sides. They go both ways. So yeah, maybe you could take it and maybe you'd win. Do you really want to even go there? So, are we not independent, freedom-loving Texans who can decide for ourselves whether to answer the door, post a no solicitation or trespassing sign, or welcome someone with election information, or offering to mow my lawn, or selling cookies? So, thank you.
Thank you.
George Baruti.
George Brody, 1616 Glen Road, and I was going to start with something that somebody already said, so now I'm repeating them, but this does appear to be a solution in search of a problem. I'm not sure I get it exactly why we're doing it when you guys have kind of danced around what appears to be the simplest solution, which is instead of all this organization and coordination that has to go on with the government, why don't we just tell people if you don't want somebody knocking on your door, put a no soliciting sign on it, and then if we have to, I guess it's 3180, and write that into code saying that we will enforce that. So that if a person knocks on your door, you can call in and say they've done it, and you can go violate them. Because with all this other stuff, that's exactly how you're going to catch a violator anyways. If someone doesn't have a permit, they knock on my door, how am I going to get them this law enforced? I got to call it in, and then they got to come search them or find them or whatever, which is no different than the solution I just gave, minus all the extra stuff, permitting, fingerprinting. I mean, fingerprinting, really? We're saying we're going to do fingerprinting and background checks every 90 days, fingerprinting once a year. all so that they can knock on my door and sell me a sausage supper. I mean, that seems a little bit over the top. And like I said, I'm not really sure. I mean, are we not able to enforce a no soliciting sign? I mean, is that not something we can do? I don't know. But we don't need the permit. We don't need to involve police in keeping a database of names of do not knock list. I mean, do not knock list. Again, really? If the person flies in from out of town to dispense their college kids to sell me magazines, they aren't going to come get a permit. So they're going to knock on all the doors anyways. The only way we're going to catch them is if I call it in and then somebody goes and gets them, which I do with the no soliciting. To people talking about free speech, I'm not sure. I mean, I think I read this ordinance. I'm not sure that it's encroaching on free speech, only because free speech applies to public space. And so in a private space, I don't know that we have that same right. I mean, I still can't come into your house. And I'm just talking words, it's not free speech anymore, right? I mean, I've just trespassed. So I don't know if we should get hung up on that as much as I don't see the point of this whole ordinance. Like I say, just, and I don't know if you guys, when you knocked on doors and you can't, when you're campaigning, I see a no soliciting sign, I took that to mean don't knock on my door. And so just make that a strict adherence to that and be done with it.
Thank you.
Havala Puccio.
Evening, Council. My name is Havala Puccio, 418 Christchurch Drive, Kerrville. A couple of things that I wanted to bring up on the ordinance. First I saw mentioned was a permit to door knock if under certain criteria. If I'm correct, the permit is to be given by the city to certain organizations or individuals that can just go up and knock on neighborhoods. I do have a concern with this. Just personally, my father, he's owned several businesses, and when we first moved to the area, he had to door knock to get customers and to get business. And he would be gone for hours, sometimes all day, just to get 2 or 3 jobs for the week, just to put food on our table. Asking the city for permission to work your business so you can feed your family, I think is overstepping. And again, what Jacqueline said is it's creating a solution to a problem that doesn't exist. Next, I read that the reason for this ordinance or the amending of the ordinance is for private residents from unwanted annoyance or disruption. Whoever wrote this ordinance hasn't really been door knocking. Again, what George said, when I door knock, if I see a no solicitation, I don't knock. It just means you don't want to be bothered, they're going throughout their day. When door knocking, most people that answer the door do want to be talked to. If they don't want to be talked to, they don't answer the door. Or they just say no thank you and we move on through the day. And then if they don't want to be, I've even seen some signs that say specifically they don't want canvassers. So people are already putting up on their doors, in their homes, and their residents, what they do or do not want. So I just think, enforcing that is the solution that maybe y'all are looking for. And then, like I said, the do not knock list I do think isn't essential. Like I said, the city, residents they have the choice and they're already, effectively making that choice in their residences and in their homes. And then my last point, coming from a canvasser and door knocker, I've knocked on several hundred homes. I've been around my neighborhood. The majority of the people that I talk to are actually really thankful that I come by, and sometimes I even sit and visit for a while. So I do not find that annoyance or disruption is good verbiage to be used. And then, I just hope that some of the points I made will be used in the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's the end of the speakers.
All right, council.
Mayor, may I make a comment?
Sure.
Thank you. I wanted to address Councilman Garcia's concerns in regard to crime and if there was some type of criminal activity that would be tied to this. And just to offer some perspective from a law enforcement officer's perspective on this ordinance and what we would benefit from this, and also the benefit of some of my past experiences with people who engage in some of this door-to-door activity. We may be very fortunate here. All the perspectives we've heard tonight have been very legitimate perspectives and how most of us normally think. As a police officer, part of what I get paid to do is to protect the community and think in terms of criminals and how they would take advantage of our citizens and try to prevent that. And I think some of the things in this ordinance help us with that. I've unfortunately lived in a community where we were overrun with these door-to-door salesmen, and many of them were not legitimate. They would come in, they would pay for their pass once or their certificate once they were caught in a neighborhood. But many times what they were doing were approaching homes, casing vehicles, casing the homes themselves, looking for security measures, and then they were coming back at other times and taking advantage of that and breaking into homes and committing crimes there. I think by creating this ordinance and requiring them to provide their fingerprints, which is very important to us in solving crimes, many of these folks, especially being adjacent to an interstate where people float through in and out, having that type of information on file to be able to utilize in those types of situations is very important to us, because they very much could be here one day, walk a neighborhood, see what they want to see, do what they want to do, and be gone the next morning, and we would have no clues. I think this gives us at least the opportunity to contact them if they are in the neighborhoods and they do not have the appropriate credentialing, and require them to go do that. You'll find the folks that are legitimate won't have any problem with that. They'll go do what they need to do to continue their business, and the folks that aren't, many times will leave. If they don't decide to leave, then at least we have record of who they are and when they were here and what their legitimate business was. So just a perspective from the law enforcement side of what this ordinance could provide in part to our community as far as protection and trying to be proactive in that protection.
Thank you, Chief.
While you're up there, do you have any evidence to point to of directly linking any of those crimes here in Kerrville?
Since I've been here, I do not. I think we've been very fortunate. Just like with most crime, we see spurts of different types of activity here. I would say that just because we haven't seen that in recent times doesn't mean that doesn't set us up as a community that could be the victim of that. I think being proactive in these circumstances is important for our community to be prepared for that. I know we have contacted people doing door-to-door sales and pointed them to the appropriate direction. Whether or not they followed up on that or if they left, that would be, between them and what they decided to do. I know we didn't contact them again, so.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, council, we've heard from citizens. Any further questions, comments?
Going on to that last point about crime, I do want to point to, although the question of jurisdiction is still out there, the case has been referenced multiple times. Reading from the court's opinion or order, said that without any substantive evidence establishing an increase in the crime rate due to door-to-door solicitation, the town fails to show how canvassing, after a certain period of time, poses any greater threat to its citizens than any other person would who would come to the resident's door after dark or without a permit. And they concluded one of their statements by, the town's concerns about an increase in the incidence of crimes that could result from door-to-door solicitation is adequately addressed through the town's enforcements of criminal laws against trespass, theft, and the like. So the town's ordinance, in this case, therefore, is not narrowly tailored to protect its residents against crime. So I think we've had information from staff that shows that there is no evidence to show that this is directly linked to crime. That's what we've been claimed. Last point I want to look at is the appeal process at the end, because I assume if council wants to move forward with this, I'd at least like to try to clean something up. Under the appeal process on the last page, the decision to award or grant the permit is made by the city manager. The appeal is then again made to the city manager to decide. Normally, when you have an appeal, it's not, the decision isn't given to the exact same individual to make the decision. You would, if there's an appeal from a board under city council, usually that comes to city council or to the court. So my recommendation, as we've done like with the short-term rental ordinance, where if there was an appeal on giving them their permit or denying their permit or taking it away, that appeal would come straight to city council. And I think if council's gonna move forward with this, I think the governing body of the people who's making this regulation should be the body that determines what that appeal outcome is gonna be. So I'd like that to change, but I agree with most of the sentiments that have been made. The question of whether it's really a freedom of speech, I agree, it's not completely held up here, but is it really something that we need to do? And I don't usually agree with, well, we haven't changed the ordinance in 30 years, so we need to change it. You know what? If it ain't broken, don't fix it. We talked about that at our last ordinance, and we don't have any evidence to show that this is broken or that something needs to be enhanced to this level. So for those reasons, I think it's unnecessary, and I would like council to consider backing this down a little bit, changing some of these provisions, or leaving it as it is. And I'd be happy to make a motion to either table it or give council, or not council, staff some direction on what the overall goal of council is on this, because I don't think we gave direction for this to happen, and yet here it is before us. I'm really curious too how this even got to the point where it is now.
Other comments?
I just want to thank Mr. Garcia for his support of the government 30 years ago. Of which I was a part. I'm ready to make a motion if you are ready to accept it, ma'am. I move we approve ordinance number 2024-03 on first reading.
Second. All in favor?
I move to postpone that motion until the next regular meeting.
We have a motion on the floor. We need to, no, we
Motion
need
is
to
on.
take care of yours. Do we have a second to Roman's motion?
Cleaning up in the interim.
I think I can agree with Councilmember Garcia. We need to clean this up a little bit. We need to, I'd like to get a little bit more clarification on it. Just because, like he said, if it goes to the city manager, it doesn't go back to the city manager. I do think that this is property owners' rights, first and foremost. I would like to see it come back before us, just with a few revisions.
That be done between first and second reading? Mr. Hayes? Can those revisions be made between first and second reading?
If you give me direction now for those revisions, yeah. I mean, I don't,
We need to be
you know, obviously, it's like when I created the ordinance. I mean, it would be great to have all of y'all in the office and I could just go back and forth and we could work it, but that isn't how it works, right? So I just need as much direction as you can give me so that I can bring back an ordinance that can pass on second reading, if you pass it.
I did provide you some feedback on the ordinance.
You did, yeah, yes.
And I don't think doing a workshop would be, I don't think that'd be advantageous.
That's up to y'all.
I think
That's the way he can have us all in front of him at one time.
Well, he could, he could.
That's the way we get around the Open Meetings Act, so.
We did that with the building code that earlier this afternoon.
I mean, that way we can, every one of us can get out on the table what we'd like to see changed. And we're all here together and we're not in violation of anything.
Do you have specific things that if we could possibly, well, we do have motions on the table, I don't wanna.
Yeah, we need to take care of those.
If we could give clear direction on that.
Okay, do we have a second to Mr. Garcia's motion?
I did.
You're seconding, and that's basically tabling, right?
Right, yes, ma'am.
Okay. All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed? 2? Okay. I think we need some changes. I'm not comfortable with everything, but if we tried to do a workshop, Mike,
I'll get with y'all next week, and we can start kind of hashing those things out and getting together what some of the differences and changes are. Because yeah, I agree. I don't want to be the same person to do that. So we'll I'll reach out to y'all and we'll go from there.
Okay.
I mean, I have specific things that I think without having to wait any further, because then we get so long, in the second reading process, we may have to start this all over. If I have specific things, I don't know if anybody else in council, because it seems like the concern is holding a workshop. And we're here right now with it before us. So if there are specific things that we can recommend right now, I think would be advantageous to everybody's time. But I'm open to doing a workshop to have this specific item on the agenda, but.
well, I would like a little time to work through some of these and to, as far as how I feel that they should be stated.
Sure.
Okay, are you going to meet with us individually, Dalton? Is that what you're saying, or?
If y'all wanna send, just bullet points and stuff, just individually, or send bullet points to Mike and I, then we can put those in there. Or if y'all wanna talk about
What
it
do you
now.
think? Would it be better if we came together
I
and
think we come
hashed it
together as
out?
the team that we are, since we're talking about a workshop, and we do it all together. That way, everybody's here together and we get it done together.
Yeah, we can put it on the workshop. Since it was postponed, we can put it on the workshop for, February, or the second meeting in February. Or if y'all wanna do a workshop next week, but we have Monday off, and then a couple of us are gonna be out for conference Thursday and Friday. But we can do something next week, or just do it for the workshop and second meeting in February.
Second meeting.
Do it
'Cause it's not-
before
'cause
the
there's no
meeting?
there's no first reading since it was just postponed and voted.
Mhm.
So it's technically postponed, so we have flexibility and we don't have to worry about the time in between first.
Well, and we're not under a time crunch.
Correct.
So, what if we went for a workshop, council, just, the Tuesday, after the 26th, that next week? On,
On a regular meeting date?
no, the Tuesday after, a week after, be the first Tuesday in March then.
March 5th?
March 5th, yes.
That might be election day? No?
Oh, it is election day, yes,
Yeah.
that's right. Well,
oh, yeah.
yeah, it is.
So are you thinking February 27th is not, you think we want more time than that?
No, I mean, that, I think, well, that would probably be enough time, but do it I don't think we want to do that before a meeting, do we?
Well, what we would just do is we'd have the workshop at a regular workshop, and then we wouldn't do the first reading until the first meeting in March. Because then we would do the workshop, and then first meeting in March would be the first reading.
My question is this something that we want to do before we come into a regular meeting? Or is it better to put it at a separate time by itself on? Will we be ready for a regular meeting after we go through this? That's what I'm thinking.
Last 3 hours, we should be okay.
So, what do you guys think? I mean, it's gonna be, it's not gonna be heated, but there's gonna be a lot of conversation. And so, it will have a different tone than our regular workshops before council meetings. So that was my concern of.
That's fine with me. That's fine with me.
I'm okay.
To do it before?
I want to thank Mr. Hayes for providing this document well before our meeting tonight. And I appreciate the comments made tonight. There are some that are very thoughtful.
Okay, so with that in mind then, the 27th at 4 o'clock?
And we can even do 3 o'clock, because we don't know everything that's gonna be on there?
4 o'clock.
4
4 o'clock's
o'clock.
good? All right.
4 o'clock.
You do too.
Is there anything else that I didn't look at that we might need to put at, well, we won't know for,
We'll
work
touch-
that
We'll look
out.
at the repository and then just kind of get
Okay.
back and
Okay.
we can make some changes.
okay. And I think what would be important is that we do our homework and be specific with things that we come back with, so to speed things up.
Yeah, I would recommend if we could have specific
Okay.
things in writing for everybody to look
That's
at.
what we just said, yes.
Well, in
So,
writing was the thing for all of us to look at, yeah.
so, okay, we have tabled 7A. All right, 7B.
Ordinance number 2024-04, an ordinance establishing an exemption from ad valorem property taxes for qualifying child care facility properties pursuant to the authority in section 11.36 Texas Tax Code. And we do have one citizen speaker signed up.
Okay, Drew, got something for us here?
Yes, we presented this at our last workshop, and I'll go through the background real quick for you. This was of the 88th legislative session, came out of Senate Bill 1145, which became Senate Joint Resolution 64 and Proposition 2 for the constitutional amendment that the state voters approved with a, here it is, almost 65% vote. You have in front of you and at your place a letter from Kerrville Economic Development Corporation. They discussed this at their meeting yesterday and offered a vote of support. And I know Katie was going to be here tonight, but she was unable to stay but she did bring the letter by. We do have currently 12 licensed childcare facilities in the city limits, one of which would be eligible this. The other 10 of them are already on tax exempt properties, either school or church. One is on a leased property, so the facility doesn't pay property taxes. And then we do have one that owns their own property and would be eligible for this exemption. They'll file that paperwork with the appraisal district and go from there.
Okay, any questions, comments? We have one speaker. Shelley left?
She had to go,
Yes. Who is our speaker?
which one is this?
7B.
7B. Jacqueline Hall.
Acting City Secretary.
I'm just gonna start pushing some buttons.
Jacqueline Hall, 1800 Junction Highway. So I'll keep it short and brief on this one as well. My general philosophy on businesses and tax exemption is that no business should get tax exemption. Basically, anytime you carve out a certain sector of the population that gets a carve out from taxes, that means the burden on the rest of the population goes up. And so I know childcare is a huge need in the area, but where the kind of like the precedent setting conversation y'all were having earlier, if you start here, where do you stop in terms of carving certain businesses out? A lot of businesses have, very worthy things that they're doing in the community. Nonprofits obviously are a different conversation. So just leaving that there.
Thank you.
All right, are we ready to vote? We have a motion?
Oh, is there a reason why we didn't consider doing a percentage of the tax instead of like entirely?
I think it wasn't tied to state law that,
That we cannot do, what is it, less? We cannot do less than 50%?
Yes,
So is there
council-
a thing where we couldn't, where we just didn't consider doing at least?
The direction we got from council was to bring it before you, so we brought it before you as the 100% exemption from the city portion of taxes. Certainly discuss that from there. The state law didn't limit it to a max or a minimum of 50%. So between 50 and 100% of the city's portion of the ad valorem taxes.
okay, do we have a motion?
I'll move to approve ordinance number 2024-04 on first reading.
Second.
We have a second, all in favor, right hand. And we have 4 votes opposed, and we have 1, Mr. Garcia. All right, it does pass. Consideration and possible actions, 8A. Shelley?
7C.
No, we're on
Madam Mayor.
7C.
Oh, 7C. Oh, I'm sorry. I made notes on the wrong one. Okay.
Ordinance,
7C in, please. Thank you.
ordinance number 2024-05, an ordinance deleting chapter 22 aviation of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Kerrville, Texas, containing a cumulative clause, containing a savings and severability clause, and providing other matters relating to the subject. There are no citizen speakers signed up.
Council, comments, or do we have some? We do. We have Mr. Hayes.
This may be about the most simple thing that I've done, or I'm proposing for y'all to do. This is just a cleanup. We don't need this ordinance, we don't need this chapter. We've got a joint action agreement with the county that deals with the maintenance and operation of the airport. We certainly don't want this ordinance to get in the way of that agreement and conflict. I mean, this ordinance has regulations with respect to traffic, and leasing out there, and the Joint Airport Board handles that. So my recommendation is let's delete this, repeal this, get it off the books.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any comments?
No.
Do we have a motion?
I'll move to adopt ordinance number 2024-05.
I will second.
We have a second from Mr. Harris. All in favor, right hand? And it passes unanimously. All right, now we're ready for 8A.
Yes, ma'am. Resolution number 04-2024, a resolution appointing election judges for the general and special election charter amendments of the City of Kerrville, Texas, to be held on May 4th, 2024. Said judges provided by the county elections officer.
Okay, I don't think we need anything from anybody. Do we have a motion?
I move to adopt resolution number 04-2024.
I will second.
And we have a second. All in favor, raise your right hand, and it passes. Very good.
This side of the day is making a comeback.
Okay.
Well, you beat me to it. I was
8B,
fixing to
Shelley?
say.
Resolution number 06-2024, a resolution pursuant to 10 Texas Administrative Code, Section 11.3C, with respect to tax-exempt bond applications for housing tax credits, finding that the City of Kerrville, Texas has more than twice the state average of units per capita supported by housing tax credits. And there are no citizen speakers signed up.
All right, council, any questions, comments? Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve resolution number 06-2024.
Second. We have a second from Brenda. All in favor? It is passed. Thank you. And 8C, Shelley.
Agreement between Headwaters Groundwater Conservation District and the City of Kerrville, Texas, in the spirit of cooperation in the protection and preservation of groundwater resources. And if you do give direction to the city attorney, I will need your signature on this one tonight.
All right, thank
And we
you.
do have one citizen speaker signed up.
Okay. Mr. Hayes.
Mayor, you're gonna have to bear with me because somehow in all my, here, that's what I need, thank you. I have just too much documentation. This is essentially an agreement that does a couple things, I think. It sets some expectations between now and the next 4 months between the city and Headwaters. And it also, we make agreements to certain things and certain findings that each of the parties will do and acknowledge over that time period. I'm appreciative to Headwaters for reaching out with this agreement and listening to some of our concerns as we go through this. But it's a 2-page agreement. I think it's pretty simple, and I'm hopeful that it gets us to an agreement with them. And let me just go through the sections, if you will, if you allow me to. The first section, the city recognizes Headwaters' authority over groundwater, and we certainly have done that and know that they've got that authority under Chapter 36 of the Water Code. They recognize that we operate a conjunctive use system, and I think that's important. We both recognize the Guadalupe River often fluctuates quickly in times of rain and drought, while the aquifer responds slowly. And so there's a difference in those resources of water. We both desire to work together to increase public awareness of water conservation, particularly in times of extended drought. Pending our revision of our drought regulations, and I'll get into that in a second, Headwaters grants us a 4-month exception to their drought contingency plan, and the requirement that our drought stage corresponds with their stage. We recognize that we're in the process of revisions to our drought management regulations, and we'll put more of an emphasis on aquifer levels, notice of drought stages, drought stage triggers, and among other things. We will publicize their drought stage the way we do, which is on our website and in customer bills. And then kind of the, make sure I don't forget anything. Yeah. Okay. And then the final thing is they agreed to withdraw their notice of violation, which is important because we would have had to file an appeal in district court in the next few days. So with that, I recommend that you all authorize the mayor to sign this and keep you updated with respect to the continuing conversations that we have with Headwaters.
Okay, thank you. Any comments, council?
We have one citizen.
Yes.
Jerry Wolf.
Jerry Wolf, Kerrville. I came to this council, first meeting in June, which was now, 9 months ago, talking about water, and watched all the manipulations and words and going back and forth, and we finally arrived where we're at right now. Let me ask Mr. Hayes one question about this agreement, or maybe you can answer it. Does that mean that you're going to sign a new conjunctive permit agreement with Headwaters that state where you had struck out before, where Headwaters do not have authority over the drought conditions, the city of Kerrville's drought conditions? There were several lines that you struck out in red, Mr. Rice. Are you going to sign a new conjunctive
Basically,
use permit?
Basically, Mr. Wolf, I believe, this is,
It was just read by
yes,
the city attorney.
and
we're gonna sign.
we're going to sign this that says we're going to continue to work with them. And
Okay.
they're going to continue to work with us.
All right. Now, very important question, I don't think it's ever been asked or answered, is why is this so important to the city of Kerrville to have control over your drought conditions as opposed to following Headwaters? Or is that a moot question now because you now have agreed to Headwaters' drought stages?
We haven't agreed to their drought stages yet. That is what's going to be taken care of in the future. This agreement says we're going to sit down again and we're going to work out the things that we have not worked out.
Mr. Hayes, I'm sorry, I think that was point 4 or 6 on our deal that says we're gonna work it out with them.
Yes, sir.
So it was read by our city attorney, Mr. Wolf.
I understand that.
Yes.
And
Well, this talking is going on for how many months now?
Well,
We're getting it done.
we're making strides. We're making
Okay,
strides.
we need 4 more months to do it, huh?
We have 4 months to get it done.
Okay,
Both sides are going to come together.
all right, thank you.
All right.
That's the end of the citizen speakers.
Thank you.
Just to clarify, this is something that Headwaters has been working with us with on this agreement. It's not something that the city just came up out of the blue. This is something that we've been working with, and
We've both been working on
right,
it.
and it's an understanding that they will sign this agreement at their meeting
Yes.
tomorrow too, so.
That is correct.
Mayor, if you're ready, I'll move to approve the agreement.
Please.
I'll move to approve the agreement between Headwaters Groundwater Conservation District and the city of Kerrville.
let's make a second, sir.
We have a second. Mr. Harris, all in favor, right hand. And it passes. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, we have one last one. We have an appointment to the opening that has occurred on the EIC. And what's your name?
My name's
Mr. Mr. Harry. have brought forth are bringing forth a name.
Yes, I serve on the EIC. We had a resignation last night. Mr. Gary Cochran, thank you. And we reviewed the people who had applied at the last time, including another application that came in today. And I believe the mayor and I would like to make a motion to appoint Beck Gibson to the EIC board.
I will second that. All in favor, right hand. Very good. It passes. Thank you all. All right, we have come to the end of the meeting. Can we sign that right after the meeting for you, Shelley? Okay, very good. All right, is there I don't believe we need an executive session. Is there anything that anyone has for a future item? With that, at 8:15, we will close not public hearing, we will close the meeting. Yes, thank you. Thank you all for being here.